The average homeowner is 34 times more wealthy at the end of the day in their net worth than someone who rented their whole life. You're probably reading the headlines and you're like, what the heck is going on in the world of real estate? Well, let me break it down for you. This is kind of a continuation on my last video from last week. The question on everyone's mind is the buyer's agent's commission. Who is going to pay that? Do I have to pay that as the buyer? Is the seller still paying that? Do I need to come up with an extra 3% on the purchase price? How am I going to buy a house if I have to do that? Rest assured, literally, we're going to continue doing real estate the way that we have always done. The only two things that are actually changing, if they're even approved and go into effect in July, are one, buyers have to have a buyer representation agreement before an agent is allowed to show them properties that are listed on the open market on the MLS. What that means is you won't be able to call an agent and request a showing on a property without having some sort of commitment between you and the agent you're choosing to show that property, and a transparency around how much that agent will be getting paid for the property you're wanting them to show. But once that agreement is signed, then you will be able to go and look at houses as normal. The only other thing that's changing is that the cooperative compensation, or how much a seller is willing to offer a buyer's agent for bringing them a buyer for their property, can't be marketed on the MLS, but it can be marketed anywhere else. Social media, email advertising on the agent's own personal website, and literally any other place they see fit, just not on the MLS, which to me, I think is more confusing than the way it currently was. However, that would be the new rule change come July. So what does that mean for you? Do you as the buyer have to come up with that money? No, it's always negotiable like it's always been. It's going to be in the form of seller concessions, which I talked about a little bit in the previous video. So realtors, let's just say that the buyer's agent is wanting to get 3% of the purchase price, and that's how much they charge for their real estate services. So all you would need to do then is decide if A, I want to pay that myself as the buyer's agent, or B, I want to request the seller to pay that on my behalf. Either way is totally legal. Option B is the most commonly used option that we're using currently, because a seller wants the buyer to be represented by their own agent, because then that buyer's agent is licensed and practicing real estate. They've been fingerprinted, background checked, and they're going to make sure that you as the buyer are doing everything you need to do to have a successful closing. If the seller's agent was trying to do both jobs at the same time, that's going to create a lot of confusion and something might get missed. Additionally, a seller's agent isn't going to want to do twice the work for the same amount of pay. So it behooves the seller to want to pay to have an agent represent you on that side of the transaction. How does that get negotiated? Well, it goes into seller concessions. So it's not uncommon for a buyer to ask for closing costs or for appraisals, underwriting fees, whatever. But additionally, we can just add in broker fees, and then you can get your commission, your agent's commission covered on the buyer side. Again, don't be confused by what is coming out on the national media and on the headlines, because they are blowing it way out of proportion based on what's actually happening. Unfortunately, I'm fine saying it on record, but I think it's a ploy to honestly make home ownership harder for especially first-time home buyers, because there is a movement of a lot of investors buying up a lot of properties, and I don't think that any one company or entity should be able to own as much real estate as they are owning, because it really is hurting the American dream. You know, the average homeowner is 34 times more wealthy at the end of the day in their net worth than someone who rented their whole life. So I think homeownership is still a very good thing to strive for, and don't let this misinterpretation of these new laws and changes in the real estate industry stop you from thinking that you can become a homeowner too, because it is absolutely possible. So that's all I got for you for today's Real Estate Wednesday. Of course, like and subscribe for more real estate information. Also share home tours and all kinds of other stuff on this channel. I didn't even tell you who I was, but if you're new here, my name is Ryan Henze. I run the Top Hat Connections real estate team with Keller Williams, serving Tulsa and the surrounding areas. So if I can ever be of assistance to you, reach out anytime. If you're coming from out of state, I would love to also help you make that smooth transition to Oklahoma. But even if you're moving locally, let me know. I'd be happy to help you out and answer any questions that you have. Reach out anytime, and I'll see you in the next one.